In this tutorial, I will show you how you can run Postman tests in TeamCity, the continuous integration, continuous delivery solution from JetBrains. We'll go over the requirements needed to do that, and I will show you how to configure the test execution in TeamCity and how to publish the test results. Additionally, we'll have a look on how to inspect failing tests and how to publish an HTML report as well. All coming up in a second. I want you to get started by first having a look at the TeamCity architecture to get a better understanding how things work and how you can actually run Postman tests with TeamCity. TeamCity works like any other modern CI server, and it makes a separation of concerns when it comes to running the builds. So we have here the TeamCity server, which basically knows everything with what are the jobs, what are the projects, what should happen. But it doesn't do anything. It just delegates everything that needs to be done to the build agent. And the build agent basically runs the project, can build, can run tests, can do a lot of useful things. And in regard to Postman, it's important to understand that the build agent needs to fulfill some requirements in order to execute the Postman tests. And because for running Postman tests in a continuous integration server, you'll be using another tool called Newman. Ideally, the build agent would need to have Newman installed. So in that perspective, it's important to understand how the build agent should be configured. And as a minimum requirement, the build agent needs to have Node.js and npm installed. And when these requirements are fulfilled, you can actually talk about running Postman tests in TeamCity. Ideally, you will have two additional npm modules installed. One of them is Newman, and the other one is the Newman reporter TeamCity, which is a reporter designed specifically for TeamCity. Now, locally, I'm running the TeamCity server and the TeamCity build agent on my local machine. And on my local machine, I already have Node and npm and Newman and the Newman reporter installed. It means that the build agent has access to all these pre-installed tools. So let's jump directly in TeamCity and have a look on how to configure everything. One of the most important things while running TeamCity is to make sure that you have an agent. And you can check available agents by clicking this menu, and then a list of agents will be displayed. I'll go to administration and create a new project. I will manually configure the project. So let's imagine that this project is all about developing an API. The next step is to create a build configuration. We are not going to use a repository for this, but we can add that later. Now I'm going to go to build steps, and I will create a new build step. When it comes to the runner type, I will select command line. And let's just first check if we have all the requirements that we need. So let's imagine that we want to find out what kind of a Node.js version do we have, what kind of npm version do we have, and what is our Newman version. I'm gonna hit the save button, and right after this I will go here on top and do a first run of this. It looks like the result of this run was successful, and we can have a look at the build log to see exactly what kind of versions do I have. And this is the first step in the build. And I will see here that this is my Node.js version, this is my npm version, and this is my Newman version. So it looks like I have all the requirements needed to start executing Postman tests in TeamCity. So I'm gonna go back to the configuration. And what I will do here is to add another build step. So I'm gonna add a build step where the actual execution of the tests will happen. And again, I'm gonna select command line. Here I'm gonna run the Postman test. And the easiest way to do that initially is to write Newman run. And I have prepared a Git repository which contains some collections. So I'm just gonna get a first link. And this is a collection which has a couple of tests, all passing. And I'm just gonna say Newman run. And between double quotes, I'm gonna paste this address, this collection. Now all I have to do next is to hit the save button. And start another run. Now we can have a look on why this failed. And it looks like there's an assertion error there. As you can see from the console, the execution itself was successful, and this collection just has an error right now, but that's absolutely not problematic. So what we would like to do next is to use the TeamCity Newman reporter to display a better information on those tests. So if you do not have the Newman reporter for TeamCity installed, the installation is quite easy. You can install it globally and it will be available on your agent. So it's important to know that the agent needs to have this npm module installed as well. Now, once this is available, we can add an additional parameter, and that is -r and TeamCity. So let's go to the job configuration. And right after Newman run, the address, there's a space in between -r TeamCity. And this will include the TeamCity reporter as well. Additionally, by specifying CLI, you will still get in the console log the CLI report as well. And that is totally fine. And now you'll see here a more detailed report on what has passed and what has failed in regard to the previous error that we get. And you'll see here that 3 have passed and 1 is failed. And this is the list of what happened in this execution. And what's more important, you have here another tab visible, and this is the test tab. And in the test tab, you'll see exact which test actually failed and why. And you additionally will see the reason for it, and we'll have more information on investigating what happened. And this report, this test report and this nice format is possible again by using this reporter, which is specifically built for TeamCity. Now, there is one thing which we definitely do not like, and we see this process exited with code 1. And this is actually something that comes from Newman, from the execution of Newman. And this is not telling us a lot of information because we have this custom reporter and we don't need any other errors. And for that reason, we will overwrite that return code. And we'll have a look at the Newman documentation on that. And we'll have a look at the command line options. And we can use this suppress exit code. So right after the collection, we'll say here suppress exit code. For reporters as well, we can use instead of -r, we can use --" reporters. So now all the commands that we're given here are a bit more clear. Okay, let's have a look on that. What has changed? Okay, so let's see let's have a look on how it looks now. And you will see only that the test has failed and nothing with an exit code or something like that. Now, we have here a collection and we're running the test, but there's one more report that Newman can make for us, and that is the HTML report. And this is something that we can easily generate with Newman, but it's not so easily displayed inside TeamCity. So let me show exactly what I mean by that. So if we visit build steps again, we'll do the following. We can add here another reporter. And from the HTML reporter, let's specify a path where this should be saved. And for HTML reporters, there's the possibility of specifying where to save that specific report. Normally it's saved in Newman/default report, but we want to override that. And I will tell you in a second why we want to override that. So we'll say to save this report in Newman, that report.html. Gonna click the save button. and run it again. So if we have a look at the results now, nothing will show up by artifacts. And this is that way because we haven't configured any artifacts from this build. And we do actually have an artifact. And to do that, we're gonna go back to the configuration. And right here below, you find this artifact paths. And I'm gonna click this icon here. And you'll see here that we have a folder called Newman and this report.html. I'm just gonna publish the entire folder as an artifact. And once I click that, you'll see here this artifact paths are available here. And I'm gonna click save. Now, still this report will be published as an artifact, but you will not get displayed anywhere. So I will always have to go to a specific build, have a look at artifacts, and of course I need to run this build again to see the artifact. Okay, now I can have a look at artifacts, and I will see here this report. And this is the Newman report for this execution, and it gives me additional information to do that. Now, if I want to display it a bit better and not here on artifacts, there's one way on how you can do it. And I will go to the root project, and right under report tabs, I have the possibility of creating a new project report tab. So what I can do is to create a new project report tab. Let's call this API tests. I'm gonna say here latest finished build so that I can get even failed builds. And the latest finished build is the last build here, and I will select this file. And this is the reason why we said here, we said in the run configuration that it should not be called anything else but this specified file name report, because if we let it to the default name that it's assigned, it's something that contains a date inside, contains a number and stuff like that, and it always changes, and it would be very hard to reference that from here. So for that reason, the report that's being displayed is always the last one, and it has a name that doesn't change. So I'm gonna say here start page Newman report.html. Gonna hit the save button. And when I'm visiting the home project, I will see here another report. And when I click that, I will see the Newman report. So let's have a look again at what we have learned. So we have created a new build configuration to be able to run the Postman test. And inside here, we can select a version control system if we want to. I prepared one if you want to use that for testing. I've defined here 2 build steps. One of them is actually optional. I just use it in this case to show that all the tools needed are installed. So I can just disable that. And this is the actual one that's running the test. And the run type is a command line, and I have here a custom script that is being executed. And it's using Newman in order to do that. This is the collection that I'm using. It can be a local file from your local repository. I'm suppressing the exit code so that I do not get any funny things while executing this. I'm defining multiple reporters, the TeamCity reporter, which shows the test tab, the CLI reporter, which can be anytime inspected, and the HTML reporter. And from the HTML reporter, I defined where should this be exported once it's generated. So every time a build will be executed, you will see the results here. You can inspect the tests and see which of the tests failed. And under artifacts, you'll have the Newman report as well. The project overview page, we added a new tab, and that's called API tests. And here you can show the HTML report that's coming from Newman as well. Hope you find this tutorial helpful, and if you have any questions regarding TeamCity, Newman and Postman, just let me know by leaving a comment in the section below.